Hello there, I'm Randy Skretvet, the author of Laurel and Hardy, The Magic Behind the Movies, and we are watching a wonderful film called From Soup to Nuts, which was filmed in 8 days on 2 years. It was filmed on Tuesday, December 27th through Saturday, December 31st. They took a break for the New Year holiday and resumed on January 3rd, 1928, and finished on January 5th. It was copyrighted on March 24th, 1928, which was the day it was also released to theaters. Working title was Let George Do It. And this was directed by E. Livingston Kennedy, better remembered as Edgar Kennedy. I told you all about him in the commentary for Leave 'Em Laughing. He made 450 films as an actor, 54 for Hal Roach, and directed at least 25 films. There's Anita Garvin and Stanley John Tiny Sanford. And Anita said that she only had to give her head a slight shake for that tiara to fall. Now, the idea of these newly rich people, the social climbing wife and the husband who thinks it's the bunk, is also in a Three Stooges short called Tassels in the Air, which was directed by Charlie Chase. Now, this is a wonderful scene here, a perfect example of how Laurel and Hardy wring humor out of nothing, because they only have one prop, one of those doorbells with cords that never seem to work for them. We'll see that again in the music box. And they build a wonderful routine just out of their own gestures and reactions. Also, now, Ollie seems to be fully formed at this stage, and Laurel and Hardy at this point have only been a proper team for 6 months. Stan still has some refining to do because he has several temper tantrums in this film, and he seems quite a bit more aggressive than usual. He still jumps up and down and does that little scissors kick. You'll see that later on. Also, he seems to be looking to the camera just about as much as Hardy, and later on they figured that that should pretty much be the exclusive domain of Ollie. Now, here's a rare tracking shot. You don't normally see these in Laurel and Hardy comedies, nor in Chaplin or Keaton movies either. It's a little bumpy there, too. Usually comics want to cut to a new shot rather than have the camera move. Cameraman on this is Len Powers, who had kind of a reputation as being a tough guy. He had formerly been a boxer, just like Leo McCarey and Edgar Kennedy, and became a cinematographer at the age of 20 in 1914 at the Reliance Studio. He worked for Fox and Sennett, coming to the Roach lot in April 1922, where he worked with Our Gang, Charlie Chase, and the all-animal cast of the Dippy Doodads. Interesting that Laurel and Hardy have a business card here, especially when, as you will learn in just a moment, their previous experience has been in railroad eating houses. And as you find here, Stan is a little bit more assertive in this film than he would be in later one. I think Laurel and Hardy were starting to become known for the all-out reciprocal destruction battles of their early pictures. Battle of the Century was probably being released right around the time that this was being made. There's Eleanor Vanderveer and Jean Morgan at the very right. And there's Anita Garvin again. Now, Anita was born February 11th, 1906 in the Hell's Kitchen part of New York. She was 3/4 Irish and 1/4 Blackfoot Indian. She began her career as a Maxennet bathing beauty as a part of a touring stage show. And when she was only 12 years old, because she was 5'6" and she could pass for 16, she became a Ziegfeld showgirl at the age of 13, made her movie debut at the Christie Studios in 1924, and she appeared in 13 Laurel and Hardy comedies, including 2 of the foreign language pictures. We saw her in Why Girls Love Sailors and The Battle of the Century, and we will see her again in Their Purple Moment. She was also in a dozen films with Charlie Chase at the Hal Roach lot. And, Ollie here has proudly submitted their credentials. Now, Anita is a month shy of 22 when this was filmed, and she gives a very subtle, nuanced performance. There is Eleanor Vanderveer again. I always liked Anita. She was always one of my favorites of the supporting actors because she knew the value of understatement. And she said, I knew that if you were in a long shot, you played it broadly. If you were in a 2-shot, less broadly. And if you were in a close-up, all you had to do was think it. Now, here is Stanley John Sanford. Born in Osage, Iowa in 1894, better known as Tiny. And we saw him in Flying Elephants and The Second 100 Years, and we will see him again in Their Purple Moment. He is in just over 150 films from 1919 through 1943, and 58 of those were for the Hal Roach Studios. The sets for this movie are very impressive on a limited budget, and they are the handiwork of Theodore Irwin Driscoll, born in New York on December 15th of 1899. When he was 18, he was an assistant property master for the Triangle Film Company in Culver City, came to the Hal Roach lot in 1925, and worked there for a number of years. In the mid-1940s, He was on the crew of Cisco Kid Westerns at Monogram, and Westerns became a specialty when he moved into television because he did the sets and provided props for TV series such as Bronco, Bat Masterson, Wanted Dead or Alive, and Zane Grey Theater. And he retired in 1963 to Chavez, New Mexico, where he died in June 1984 at age 84. Now, there is Otto Freese as the chef, and we saw him as a dentist in Leave 'Em Laughing. And once again, you're going to see another example of Stan being a lot more assertive and aggressive than he would be in later years or in later films. Now, we have him doing this all this routine with the dishes. And as I say, Battle of the Century was just being released when this film was made, and they had already made Hats Off. And I think evidently Laurel and Hardy or Hal Roach or Leo McCarey seemed to be compelled to have some sort of reciprocal destruction scene, even if not on such a grand scale as in those two films. But just as we had the kicking going on in Leave 'Em Laughing, now we have this dish scene, and this threatens to take over the entire movie. But once again, we're only 6 minutes into it, so it's a little early to have the entire dinner party dissolve into dish breaking. Now, I hope that Mr. and Mrs. Culpepper have more serving plates in their cupboard, and I hope the chef hasn't quit. You're going to see in a little bit, there Stan's got his hand in the mashed potatoes. Their expertise in railroad eating houses is going to make itself known all through this movie. In addition to all those serving dishes, I hope they have another platter there as Ollie takes a header. That's unfortunate. And you're going to see now, Ollie says, "I faw down." There it is, which was a very pervasive phrase in 1927 and 1928. There was a popular song called "I Faw Down and Go Boom," and "We Faw Down," of course, was used soon for a Laurel and Hardy title. Now, Anita immediately becomes a sympathetic figure here because she's so insecure. She's looking at these well-established, wealthy people and trying to determine which utensil to use. And first, she uses a soup spoon and then a salad fork, and that's not right. And then she does find the dessert spoon. Now, this gag with the fruit cocktail and the cherry had been used 6 months earlier by Stan in the second 100 years. But in this film, it's performed with much more subtlety and to a much better reaction, I think, by Anita here. And it has an extra dimension because she's so concerned about creating a good impression, whereas Stan, is sort of a roughneck convict, wasn't all that concerned about making a good impression. Now, also, she's probably just all alone with director Edgar Kennedy and the cameraman here, so she's creating all those people to whom she's glancing. There's Buddy the dog going through the ankles of Dorothy Coburn. I guess she thought that Mr. Culpepper was playing footsie. Buddy's owner and trainer was High East. He was married to tall, lanky screen comedian Gail Henry, and Buddy was already a movie veteran, having worked in pictures since 1923. At the Hal Roach lot, Buddy had been featured in the Charlie Chase comedies Dog Shy and Mighty Like a Moose, and later we get to hear him in Perfect Day. Now, Anita has that other nemesis, the tiara, and she also upends her spoon and the cherry. So there's about a minute and a half devoted to Anita there with Laurel and Hardy off-screen. And now Stan has the soup tureen, and so much of it pours out onto Ollie's shoes that one wonders if there's any soup left inside. And also, before long, you're going to see Buddy planting the banana peel. I never saw a dog peel a banana before, so he was evidently very talented. As far as the plant of the banana peel, this is a great example of telegraphing a gag. And I got to know the film editor, Richard Currier, and he said, there we go. He said, be careful to see that the audience is always in on the gag, but don't let your characters in on it. So now here comes the first fall in the cake. Now, although Edgar Kennedy is the credited director, Leo McCarey recalled being on the set for this, and he said to historian Peter Bogdanovich in 1969, he said that he told Babe, quote, "Don't move, just don't move, stay like that." Hardy stayed still, stretched out, furious, his head in the cake. You could only see his back, and for a minute and a half, the audience couldn't stop laughing. So we are going to see that this is the first of the comedy rule of three. Now Ollie throws the banana peel just as he threw the tack back onto the floor and Leave 'Em Laughing. So we know that we're going to see it again. And Ollie always flicks off any cake or pie filling or whatever he has been messed with, he always does it so daintily. He always does everything with fervor and panache. And, of course, it's kind of strange that Tiny Sanford has a monocle there, since he thought that being rich was the bunk. And there's you fall down again. You're going to see another couple of uses of fall down in these titles. Beanie Walker was back to the studio by this time from his vacation in New York, so I guess Beanie is responsible for all of the fall downs in the titles. Now, you're going to see Stan with a thick and gluey soup. It looks like New England clam chowder or something. As you will find in a moment, it photographs well. And Stan plays to the camera and us after he loses that spoon. As you see, there he goes. He looks right at us. And but before long, that banana peel that has been planted is going to make its presence known once again. And so there we go with his thumb in the soup. And whoa, now Stan is the victim of the banana peel. There's a little continuity error there because Tiny had gotten up before they did the insert shot of the soup all over him. And you're going to see in a moment, again, in keeping with Stan being a lot more aggressive in this film than usually, he's going to demonstrate a very effective and economical right hook, which is evidently very effective if it can knock out Tiny Sanford. Now, you are about to see that napkin that Stan has is actually part of his underclothing, and you will see all of that, much more of it, to much greater effect later on in this movie. And, of course, how do you like it, Stan says. There we go. And about now, here comes that right hook. There it goes. Now, we saw him do that to Charlie Hall in Leave 'Em Laughing, and he will demonstrate that once again in Blockheads. So, evidently, there, and I love this insert shot. They don't even have to show you Anita. And she's using the soup spoon again. They just show her, just show the spoon chasing around the dessert plate. They don't have to show anything else. Now, Ollie has been off screen for 1 minute and 23 seconds before reappearing. Somehow he has managed to clean himself up and his suit, and somehow gotten another cake. Maybe Edna Marion is busy making cakes in that kitchen. I don't know, but we've already destroyed 2 of them within just a matter of a few minutes. And there's a 4th fall down, which I think is enough of them. And once again, that banana peel is going to make its presence known yet again. See how this is very interesting, how assertive Stan is. I think after they looked at this one, they figured that he probably would work better as a more mild-mannered character. And there is his scissors kick, which he was using a lot of times in his solo films. He used that scissors kick a lot. I wonder if that was something that he did in vaudeville. Now, there, Stan did not slip on the banana peel. He slipped on the front piece of the fireplace, but still enough to make him very angry at all the dinner get. Now, Anita has finished all of her fruit cocktail except for that cherry, which she is still determined to capture. And I love to watch her face and her hands as she attempts to catch her quarry. Now, when Stan helpfully puts the cherry in the glass, watch this. Anita's expressions are so down to earth right there. It's simple. Once again, she's a likable character despite her pretensions and trying to be a social climber. And here, Ollie already has, within 47 seconds, he has cleaned up again and brought in a 3rd cake. Now, that he was off camera from 12 minutes and 48 seconds into this movie to 13 minutes and 35 seconds, so that's 47 seconds. And also, they've only served fruit cocktails and soup. And now it looks like they're getting ready for a dessert. You wonder what the main course is going to be. We will, however, find out in just a moment that they will also have salad along with the soup. And there, once again, is that tiara. And Anita said that, nobody ever gave her any direction for what she did with the cherry. She just pretty much did that all on her own. Very, very creative comedy from Anita Garvin. Now, we have this gag about serve the salad without dressing or undressed. And this is kind of like a Gracie Allen joke, if you know Burns and Allen from radio and television. All of their comedy was about misinterpreting words that could be taken 2 ways. And I wonder how well this translated into other languages, because after all, this film was distributed internationally. And of course, Stan is taking undressed or without dressing the other way. He doesn't seem to think, and once again, he's got his thumb in the soup. He doesn't seem to think that this is without Russian dressing or green goddess or blue cheese. They didn't have ranch dressing back in 1928. So now he's going to follow orders, even though he's rather perturbed about it. And there, once again, is Edna Marion. Now, there are many, many publicity stills from this scene, or probably the day this was shot. A lot of different scenes of Edna and Stan doing all sorts of things that you don't see in the movie. They peel onions, and they take a telephone call with Edna standing on Stan's back. And then there's a whole bunch of other stills of them playing the saxophone together. So somebody at the Hal Roach Studios or the MGM publicity department thought that she was really worth publicizing. But the strange thing is that she was at the Hal Roach Studios just under a year, from April of 1927 to April of 1928. And so it's unusual that they gave her so much publicity when her contract did not last that long. Ollie has found a use for the steam vent of the soup tureen, which earlier had caused such damage to his shoes. Now, there are these high-back oak dining chairs, which were quite popular in the 1920s, and you can still find them on auction websites. By the way, there's two different designs there. That's kind of interesting. And now Mr. Hardy is going to try to circumvent but unfortunately, he's not used to those trousers, evidently. Happily, we will find very soon that he is handy with a needle and thread, probably because he has previously encountered just such emergencies. And there we cut back to Anita. This is a really nicely edited film because we have the running gag of the cake and the banana and the tiara and the fruit cocktail. You've got all those different running gags to juggle, and they all come in at the right time. Now, here is Mr. Laurel with his own conflicts with clothing, and there's another bumpy tracking shot from Len Powers. Dan is wearing a union suit, which is one-piece long underwear with a flap in the back. These became popular after being introduced in Utica, New York in 1868, and they were popular especially in rural areas through the 1950s. You can still get them, but now they're called thermal underwear. There's Dorothy Coburn, and there's Tiny Sanford talking to Eleanor Vanderveer. Now, there is a still which indicates that Anita loses her dress, and in fact, the ending originally was different. And you will see in just a moment, it said, Hardy enters with a third cake, this time on a tea wagon, which we've already seen here. He is horrified at Stan's appearance, seizes what he thinks is a Spanish shawl from the hostess's shoulders to cover Stan's nudity. The shawl proves to be the hostess's dress, whereupon Hardy faints, falling headlong into the third cake, unquote. That's from the original press sheet. And you will notice that we don't have anything with Anita losing her dress, nor does Ollie faint. So all of this was evidently newly shot footage. They must have done a preview and realized that that was not a very effective ending, and so this is new. And this is where the still takes place, but everything is different. We have, in the still, Ollie covering Stan and Anita minus her dress. You'll see that in the photo gallery. But here we go. Once again, you're going to see the comedy rule of three with the last cake providing the finale. And here it goes. And as Mr. Hardy is just about to daintily wipe the frosting from his eyes, this is Randy Scretvet, and I thank you very much for listening.